here in the city of Huelgoat. Crêperie des Myrtilles. There's another crêperie back there where we might be eating later today. This map looks cool. Huelgoat. Même ça fait très bien ça. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Non, 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 non. Allez vite.
Den will beißen? Ah ja, beißen.
Das ist so schön, John.
Let me see. Go. Go. And we are on this beautiful hike here, which is quite famous actually because there's quite a lot of sites that we are going to encounter. We were already at a mine. So this was an old miner's site apparently, where I guess this was a house. This was some mining, which obviously stopped. Maison de la mine. So I guess back then it kind of looked like that, I assume. Ancien cité industrielle. In the 19th century, had pretty good technique, and so apparently after being cleaned and selected and destroyed, and the precious stones were transported to a fonderie, to like a melting place where it was directly made into whatever has been made here. Maybe gold, maybe some other mineral. There's a museum somewhere, a small one. Okay. War das auch Teil davon? Is this part of the mines as well? Construction étagée de l'ancien. I guess they cleaned the stones here in the 18th century. This was pretty advanced for, I guess, 18th century stuff. What is Larissa doing? She's looking for a treasure, I think. She said we only have to find a treasure worth $300,000 or euros so we can buy a house here. And this covers our cost. I'm not so sure if we will, but let's just hope she's happy. What's going on here? Huelgoat. I guess that's where they entered the mine, is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Okay. This kind of looks like an old dungeon from Skyrim, which I have to press something so a hidden stairway opens up, and then eventually I'm gonna find my treasures. An old Dwemer ruin, but I guess it probably isn't. I just like that nature reclaims everything. I love us looking for the hidden treasure. Some big fat piece of gold. hast du das gefunden? Der Stein sieht komisch aus. Guck mal. Guck mal, Schatzi, der Stein sieht komisch aus. Was ist das für ein Stein? Das ist ein bisschen speziell. Nee, okay.
Eine Murmel.
Okay. Interesting. Ich muss mal hier mal schauen. This doesn't look like it's valuable stones. Precious stones, unfortunately. It's gonna be an old menhir stone, like a druid stone, and some different caves, like a cave called the Devil's Cave, and a Trembling Cave or something, whatever that means. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Today, what I thought about is a blog post I've read recently by Derek Sivers, and I wanted to briefly talk about this. Derek Sivers, I think I first heard about when I listened to a podcast of his with Tim Ferriss, and I found his clarity of thought and his contrarian ideas to be very inspiring, and he's really one of the few people that resonates with me with almost everything he says. I don't know that much about his personal life. I know that he had built a company called CD Baby, which basically gave artists the possibility to sell their CDs outside of a major deal, doing their own distribution online basically, and not overcharging them, which was really great. And he then later sold the company for I think a good amount, not billions, but might have been 50 million or 100 million, so pretty crazy actually. But that's not what's impressive about him. I think he now lives in New Zealand and he has a kid, and he says he's gonna stay in New Zealand for the next 9 years until the kid is an adult. He might be homeschooling the kid. Wow, that's so beautiful. That's beautiful. Check this out. I love the moss on trees. It's wet actually. It's been raining quite a bit here, but that makes the color, the green, even more green, I feel like, when it's kind of wet. So yeah, I never really heard about him having a partner. He always says me and my son, or me and my daughter. So maybe he's a single dad living in New Zealand, and I read somewhere that he might be thinking about building like a self-sufficient house. But he seems to be kind of like I'm not sure if he's a loner necessarily, but a guy who definitely carves his own path in life, who has his own ideas, and that's translating to everything he does, it seems, to his business, the way he conducts business, the way he lives, the way he spends his money, and all of it. And so it's quite inspiring. So in any case, not too long ago, he wrote some, by the way, if you want to read about it, it's the story, you can listen to his podcast and Tim Ferriss, Derek Sivers, or you can check out his website, which is sivers.org, or siver and then .rs, whatever that domain ending is. Okay. Alright, beautiful. They're kind of scared of me because I talk to myself. And you can also read his book, which is called, I think, Whatever It Takes? No. Something like Whatever It Takes. I think it's his first book about him building a CD baby and other stuff. And just this general focus on the people he's serving, which is the artist, is quite inspiring, but also everything he does and the way he thinks. In any case, he recently wrote some other books, like 2 or 3 other books, which he self-published, and because he has built a bit of a following, even though he's not that active on social media, he's actually not doing any social media really. He sold those books and he made like $200,000 or something. And he said something interesting, which is, I don't need more money. And I've been thinking about this ever since, because I've never really heard many people say that. I don't need more money, and this is why he actually gave those proceeds from selling the books, which is like the $200,000. He gave it all away to charity, which I think is quite inspiring. But to me, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, this I don't need more money, because it seems to be that we live in a society of more and more. We don't really know what moderation is, and this is why it's so refreshing to hear somebody say, I don't need more money. I think I've never heard like a millionaire or billionaire say that, because why become a billionaire in the first place? Because you never think to yourself, I don't need more money. And I think probably we would be in a healthier place as a human society if more people would think like that. Like more moderation, more I have enough, more just humility. And we seem to be living in a world where we can't get enough. We can't get enough money, we can't get enough possessions, we can't get enough houses, cars, everything. And some of it might be greed, and it's really hard to underestimate greed. And if you look at how people invest their money and everything, it's just so much driven by greed. But I think a bigger force even is ignorance. The ignorance of our own death, and the thought that by accumulating a lot of wealth we're somehow protecting ourselves from death even, and from our own impermanence, which is futile of course and ignorant. But I do believe that, similar to a bear who has to eat a lot of salmon before he hibernates, we humans tend to think that we need more and more and more money and more stuff to be safe. But this is not how we gain safety and peace. I think eventually what we want is peace of mind. We think if I only reach 1 million or 2 million, I'm gonna have peace of mind. But I don't think that moment really comes. I doubt it. I have my doubts. This is apparently where Mare aux Fées, this is where like Tinkerbell's small, what are those mystical creatures called again? Apparently, this looks cool. I don't know what this is, like an old table or something? But this is where the small ferry, the ferry riverside or something? I don't see any ferries yet, but this looks beautiful. Look at this. So yeah. I think it's just so rare for people to say, I have enough money. Especially rich people, it seems, can never get enough money. And I'm not like a naive idealist who says capitalism is the root of all evil, and I do see that people who build valuable stuff or provide valuable services to others should become wealthy. However, I do ask myself, when is it enough? And whether we have kind of forgotten to ask that question. I think we might have really forgotten to ask that question. And this is why I found this to be quite inspiring. And this also made me think of the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early movement, which basically sets a set number. And by that time, the people are willing to retire because they know once they reach this kind of amount of money, they can invest the money, get a certain type of return, and they can cover their costs. And if you want to read it up, there's a subreddit about FIRE. Wow, now the sun comes out. And there's many other resources like Mr. Money Mustache. And those people have the goal to not work until they're senior citizens and wait for their retirements. They want to maybe retire in their 40s or in their 30s even. And obviously, how much money you need will largely depend on where you live. If you live in California or in Switzerland, you're gonna need much more money compared to being in Bretagne here, where like 200,000 can suffice to buy a house even. In Switzerland, you can't buy a house unless you have $5 million or something, I don't know. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. There's a river somewhere. I hope it's not too slippery. I love this. This is so amazing. But yeah. And maybe you never thought about this yet, and I would maybe encourage you to do so. To think about at what point do you have enough money. And this doesn't mean that you should stop working. Maybe you want to continue working because you love your job, but maybe then you want to give away a lot of your money to charity or whatever makes you happy. But I think this enough is something we humans have a hard time with, naturally speaking, because we're hoarders. Our reptilian brains are used to resource scarcity. This is why we want to have as much food as possible, as much land as possible, as much sex as possible even. But this doesn't fill the hole inside of you. This doesn't bring you peace of mind. This doesn't bring you satisfaction. And this is why I would encourage you to think about if there are areas in your life where you can say, I don't need any more of that. It doesn't have to be money, because probably you're not rich enough to retire completely yet, but maybe it is other things. Maybe it is you don't need to buy a bigger house or a bigger apartment, or it is I don't need to own more cars, or I don't need to own more things. And I think this idea is quite inspiring, of saying, okay, I think I do have enough. I think I don't need much more. And yeah, I just wonder why so few billionaires get that insight, that basically they say, I don't need more money, and everything I make in excess of that, I'm gonna give 100% of that to charity. That seems to be very, very rare. And I don't think you have to be a billionaire or millionaire to think in these terms. Maybe if you live in a place where the cost of living isn't that high, this could be 6 figures or something, where you're already saying, I don't need to make much more money. Now I can focus on what really matters to me, which maybe is art, or raising my family, or raising my dogs, or just gardening, living off my land, or whatever it may be. And to me this is inspiring, because honestly I'm still a bit in that scarcity mindset myself when it comes to things like even money and everything. So maybe you want to think about this as well. Wow, this place is so beautiful. This isn't even like a forest, this is more like a mysterious jungle or something. Wow. I'm sure this tree is very old. Look at the spider nets here. Can you see them? These must be big spiders here, considering the big spider nets. Oh, this place. It's wonderful. La rivière d'Argent passes through the chasm, the water racing along a few meters below our feet. The water often has a red hue because of the color of the rocks. According to legend, Princess Dahu, daughter of King Gradlon, led a dissolute life in the city of Is, situated not far from Douarnenez. She liked to come to Huelgoat and stay in a castle named Castel Arhuidel, placed on the ridge that overlooks the chasm. From there, Dahoud threw her casual lovers in the river. What? From there, Dahoud threw her casual lovers in the river, where they disappeared. For a long time afterwards, whenever it was windy, their cries and moans could be heard coming up from the depths. When the city of Is sank beneath the waves because of Dahoud's way of life, she was transformed into a mermaid, and by means of a long underground passage beginning at Is, she came to the chasm to drown out the sobbing of her lovers with her voice. Whoa, this is dark. Did you hear that? Now let's go. Okay, wow, this is very... Müssen wir darüber? It's gonna be an adventure getting through there. Also ist nicht besser? Bisschen schon, oder? Du musst weniger Matsch durchlaufen. Wo? Ah, da oben meinst du? Okay. Maybe I shouldn't be filming here. This is hardcore stuff. Hardcore action stuff. I need both hands, ideally speaking. Oof. There's been a ton of rain here, so that's probably why this is all wet as hell. Wet as hell. It's raining on my head. It's a sanglier. Those are boars, actually. Wild pigs. I think so. stone, gell? It's very brown.
Ich halt die Steinchen.
Because of the stones apparently, not because it's polluted. Interesting. Coming back on the topic of enough, I feel like we humans have some anxiety to say enough. I'm going to close this chapter, and this is why, to protect ourselves and to relieve that anxiety, we adopt this. Oh, that's a mini. Oh, mini stone. Very small droid stone. So this is interesting. This one disappeared mysteriously during some years, but they concluded that it's probably from the Iron Age, from minus 5000 BC to minus 2500 BC. Interesting. Because we humans have such a hard time saying enough, we adopt this strange belief, this naive and idiotic belief, that we have to experience something very excessively in order to have enough of it. We need to have this, like, millions in our bank to finally find peace. We need to, I don't know, sleep with thousands of women to scratch that itch. We need to travel to hundreds of countries to scratch that itch, but I think we never really can scratch that itch. And also, usually we will find that doing something from this mindset will not make us satisfied. Oh, this looks cool. I'm not sure what this has to do with Artus. It's not Arthas from Warcraft, unfortunately, who is awesome. But it's interesting that this whole saga of Arthas and Merlin is so popular here in Bretagne, because my understanding is that the whole Camelot thing is a Great Britain thing. And I've asked a few people, but my theory is that Arthas was here as well. King Arthas. I don't know for sure. I don't know 100%, but this is quite beautiful. Even the sounds. Oof. Some asshole made some painting. Check this out. This is cool too. Check this out. This is a small pathway through here. Can I go through here? This is very narrow. I'm gonna get stuck here. Like in this movie, 72 hours. It's not a smart move. Okay, I think I'm gonna get a bit claustrophobic here. Okay, what does it say? Artus, authors, that's how you wrote it, Arthur. Arthas is a variant of Arthur, a Breton lord and defender of the Celtic peoples of Armorican Brittany and the British Isles at the beginning of the, 6th century? Legend has it that Arthur slept in this cave with a few of his faithful knights and companions. Did he have sexy time with them? Probably not. Rude to anyone waking him up without having a good reason, for that person would lose his life. In fact, this legendary king was only to be disturbed if his homeland was in danger. Eventually, he and his knights once again took up the struggle to rebuild the kingdom of Brittany, which was under threat from the Saxons. The cave contained a fabulous treasure guarded by demons who moved through the air, Like a will o' the wisp. Interesting. So yeah, again, it doesn't fully answer this. So was Arthur, is that the same one from the legend, and was he originally from here and then he went to Britain to defend it from the Saxons? I'm so bad at history. Shit. I did read the book, the story though. It's pretty good about Artus and his knights betraying him, and Merlin, who has magical powers and is kind of a druid, and how Artus is looking for the Holy Grail. It's a cool story, I really like it, but it's just, I don't really get it fully. The geographical pinpointing and why they talk so much about it here, and why so many places and castles are called like this, because we went to this one castle as well, which was all about Artus, and it's Artus Castle. It was called something like Sanglion or something. So this is actually linked to Arthur Nedercourage. But yeah, I think using this maximizer strategy, as it is called, is just having a maximum of experiences, is dangerous because you will never be satisfied. Better strategy is the satisfizer strategy, I think it's called, to just do as much, maybe to make the experience. Maybe you want to experience everything once. I think it's a good idea to try to experience like what a stressful corporate career feels like to you, if you like it, what having promiscuous phase in your life feels like, what party and drugs feel like to you. And if you really enjoy those things, you can continue them, but there's a good chance you don't. And I think in order to say, I have enough, you gotta know yourself first. So, saying I have enough requires self-knowledge. And this is what most people lack. And it's probably a hard skill to have and to foster, which most people don't have, I guess. And I think the ultimate form of that is probably with your life. Like, I've lived enough years. I think that's the part, like our time, so to say, on this earth, where people clamor to it with most anxiety and desperation. But there are some old people that you will find sometimes who say, I'm okay with going, I've lived enough years. And that ultimately, I think, is a sign of abundance and having found peace, to say, I've lived enough years, I'm good to go wherever the next thing is. And maybe it's nothingness, maybe there is an afterlife, who knows, but I'm good. It's basically just saying I'm good. And I think, you gotta be quite courageous to come to that realization and say, I'm good, I've lived enough now. And you gotta be able to let go. And for me, it's not out of the question that I will do that myself. And I gotta say, right now I do feel like it would be a pretty nice way to go, to decide myself when it's time to go, and to maybe even take my own life at some point. Hopefully not anytime soon, but let's say, especially when I know that I have a terminal disease, or when I know that I can't live without significant life support. I think it's a quite reasonable choice to say, okay, I want to go. And in Switzerland there are programs called Exit, which helps you die. And of course I don't know how I'm gonna think once I'm in that situation, but right now I feel that this would be a quite dignified way of leaving this place. Kind of a morbid direction this took here, but I think we should all be thinking about, okay, when do I have enough? And I think money is one of the key areas where it seems so alien for us to say I have enough money. But maybe this point is not so far away, and maybe you don't even realize that you might have surpassed that point already, because the way you want to live is enough, and maybe you don't need to live until you're 100. Maybe it's okay to live until you're 60 or something, or 70, and then you're good. Hard to say, of course. It's a touchy subject. This is quite interesting again. Le Pont Rouge. The name Red Bridge, Pont Rouge in Breton, comes from the Gallic word rudos, meaning red. It is believed that its construction dates from the time of the Ossismi, a Gallic people of the Armorican Celts, whose capital was Vorgium. Carhakes, Vorgium, that sounds like a great evil guy in a fantasy movie. According to legend, Dahut, Queen of Ys, we heard about before already, who's quite brutal, fell madly in love with a young man from Huelgoat who remained totally unmoved despite her advances. One evening, wishing to understand the reason for his refusal, she followed him into the forest. His fiancée was waiting for him by the old bridge. Dahut, in a fury, drowned both of them, and the river took on the red tint, the color of their love. In despair, Dahut wept in front of this blood-tinted water, for she knew what her love was last. For she knew that her love was lost forever. I mean, all I know is Dahut is quite brutal, and this is actually the river, and this is the very old bridge. I think that's the original one, and you can still see the remainders of what looks like these special stones almost, and the color is kind of brownish, reddish, right? Just imagine Dahut drowning everybody. I mean, I really wonder who Dahut is, but I kind of want to read more about her, because she did some crazy stuff. Usually it's the men who are like the Zeuses who have these affairs and kill people, but in this story it's a woman who kills everybody and has all these lovers. And yeah, as I told you before, according to legend, she became a mermaid or something and sang to drown out the sorrows of her past lovers. It's quite crazy that these themes of mermaids and so on exist in so many traditions, and yeah, jealousy and fury, all these human emotions, lust, vengeance. It's crazy. Oh, look at this. That was a piece. Just want to check out this thing. It's scary, but can I fit through there? Probably not. Oh. Getting stuck. Okay, I can't go much further than that. This is crazy. Okay. Oh, there's a creperie back there. Some crepe. Cool. Okay. The Virgin's household was formed by a pile of boulders. The stones, eroded by a run of water, took on strange shapes. With a little imagination, it's possible to distinguish the cooking utensils of the Virgin's household. A pot, a ladle, a butter churn, a bellows. Okay, so apparently these, kind of look like household. I don't know why a virgin though. People were obsessed with virgins and certain cultures still are. And incels are as well. For some reason. Oh, look at those big stones. I mean, they're big. They're really big. Ooh. Am I allowed to go up here? Ooh, it's actually slippery. Wow, look at this. Look at this stuff. I love this, but it's kind of scary too. Those boulders are huge. They're huge. I think she walked down there, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy. Okay. Alright, let's see. Wow. Check this out. CJ. This thing looks huge, like behind Larissa, like a huge mushroom or something. What do you guys think? I mean, to me it does. Crazy. Mon crêpe, jambon et fromage. Jambon et fromage, that's a complet. This looks beautiful actually. God, how cute.
Schokolade gut gemacht, ganz schlecht.
Vous prenez des boissons?
On est en train de réfléchir. Est-ce que vous avez un cidre doux aussi?
Sans pression, il est bon, hein, il est pas fort.
Ok, parce qu'elle aime pas trop. Alors je crois qu'on va prendre juste un cidre
Bah,
alors.
Goûtez un, vous verrez.
Oui, oui, c'est ça. On aimerait bien. Cool, merci.
Comme ça, vous verrez si vous en prenez un autre. Tenez.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Ah, cool. Das ist interessant, dass er die zusammen hat irgendwie.
Ja, dass er nur Eistabletten ist, bis jetzt.
Ja, okay. Und das falsch rum, aber ist egal. Danke. Das ist ein bisschen schade, aber egal. Uff. Mhm. So this is a stone that apparently, if you try hard enough, you can move it and bulge it so it trembles. I think that's realistically possible. Stroll, Trembling Rock, an enormous boulder and survivor of the exploitation of clay. First of Huelgoat star attraction. Impressive block weighs 137 tons, 7 meters long, 3 meters high, 2.8 meters wide. Its fin goes beyond the forest and it's aptly named. Resting on the narrow 90 centimeter ridge, it can oscillate slightly if a little pressure is applied. But of course you must position yourself in the right place. Take a good look. One of the angles of the rock is eroded. Put your back against it at the point and push it so as to make the rock tremble. At the foot of this angle, the trampled soil testifies to the thousands of people who have come and tried to move the boulder. Ist zu probieren? Ich will sehen. Ich muss mal sehen, wie das.
Ik weet niet of je gaat. Nee? Ja, je moet misschien meer op die kant gaan. Nou, veel aardig ga ik niet terug hoor. Nee.
Der ist noch nicht fertig, der muss noch ein paar Mal probieren.
Je kijkt er ook echt mooi bij. Moet je kijken. Dit is echt grappig.
Warum nicht? Wie genau geht's? Ich hab nicht
Du musst an den richtigen Ort hinstehen, nachher das schütteln.
Und woran sieht man das?
Dort, wo der Boden so eingeteilt ist, dort ist schon mal der richtige Ort.
Aber ich habe nicht gesehen, dass es wirklich geschüttelt hat.
Ja, ist schwach.
Das sind die Nökens. Müssen wir noch ein bisschen nöken.
Jetzt hat man. Ich mal.
Okay,
Wenn du dich nicht getraust.
trau mich schon.
Deze
Trau mich schon.
Nein, ich ja nicht.
Kijk, dat is die hoor. Ja, lekker.
Maar hij doet het niet.
Ja, dat is maar zo. Dat is dat gewoon. Ik ben niet zo plek meer.
Je kan aan de andere kant met de steen, dan zie je een kleine opening.
Ja? Ja, ik ga wel eens.
Vielleicht bin ich ja zu klein.
Hast du überhaupt? Are you trying to do something?
Hey, du bist
I'm
so
just-
gemein.
You're just standing there and just you have to apply pressure. I
Zeg
guess.
je?
And go like that.
Hier komt een hele sterke
Ja,
meneer.
nicht, dass das geht. Ja?
Ok, ça bougeait? Ok, peut-être comme. Putain. Je vais mourir ici.
Ist stärker als ich.
Ich habe es einfach mehr versucht. Danke, Schatzi. Ich habe mich so beobachtet gefühlt.
Ja, es sind alle gewusst, weil er wüsste, ob er wirklich unterwegs ist. Und ich habe niemand gefasst.
Der Punkt ist, genau, der Punkt ist ziemlich hoch, der Kontaktpunkt. Das heißt, man muss eigentlich ein Riese sein, um wirklich mit dem Rücken dran zu kommen. Das heißt, man muss eher so eine Art Schulterdrücken machen.
C'est roche tremblante.
En fait, elle est directement là-bas. Il y a 10 mètres à peu près.
Ok,
Ouais, c'est ça.
d'accord. Merci.
Bonne chance. Ouais. Look at this. Champignons. So cool. This really looks like a mushroom. An impressive block of granite. The mushroom weighs more than 200 tons and has the surprising shape of a cap balanced on its stem. This rock is witness to the stages of geological evolution over time. It did look different, but maybe from a different angle. Mushroom.
Und war das?
I just said if you would get rid of those 4 trees, you could see the mushroom in its full bloom blossom. But I guess it's not really required. It does look pretty crazy. I don't know how it got up there, but it looks pretty stable.
C'est gargantuan qui est tombé.
Wonder what's written about it. Gotta have some history. La grotte. Ah, it's not grotte. No, grotte. This was erased because grotte means shit, but grotte means grotto. That's funny. Everything galactic will go. La rivière d'argent falls 20 meters and disappears under the block field in the depth of a cave called the Devil's Cave. According to legend, a revolutionary from Berlin hid in this cave. At the time, he was being chased by the Chouans, supporters of the king and enemies of the revolution. As the cave was dark and was cold, he lit a large fire with branches. He was wearing a hat with 2 red feathers on it, and in his hand he was holding a large fork to defend himself. When the Chouans descended into the cave, they thought that they could see the shadow of the devil behind the fire, and they fled, crying out, "The devil, the devil." And ever since that time, the cave has been known as the Devil's Cave. Another legend tells us the cave was the entrance to a cavern containing 99 inns. The more the guests advanced, the more tasty became the dishes, the more heady the drinks. The maidservants were beautiful and welcoming, but at the 99th inn, the devil was awaiting the guests. Those who were still sober were lucky and could return to the village. As for the others, the devil pitched them into hell with his fork. Ah! Okay. Scary shit. So all these granite woods were formed 60 to 2 million years ago. And this granite was exported for the longest time from here.